Hello, my dear viewer, and welcome to Dicentra. You'll be able to find a link down in the description of this video below where you'll be able to download this game for yourselves. You play as Basil, a young boy lost in a forest of watchful trees and unfriendly guides. And in a horror scenario, when someone is trying to guide you, it's usually towards your demise. Although usually when it comes to these factors, they don't want to kill you immediately because they always want to torment and stuff like that to you. This game contains content with blood. I couldn't even read all of that. You'll be able to freeze the game and be able to do that for yourselves. I'm sorry about that. I drag myself through the rain. It blurs my vision, forcing me to feel my way through the forest with the wind crushing against me from all sides. Prayer is my only form of navigation. But I think the blood that runs through my veins prevents me from landing in God's grace. After all, God is always watching out for you, even in the darkest of woods. I fumble over the tangle of roots and slip over wet moss. My bones shudder when my nails catch on the stone beneath it, so I don't fall face first into mud. Again, has that happened more than once already? Also in the description it says this game contains 6 bad ends, 1 good end, and a true end. Remember, true does not always mean good or bad. It could mean the most conclusive or canonical actually outcome. A pathetic whine escapes my throat, as nobody will be able to listen to me in these dark woods. My grandmother would have a ball if she could see me now, because it's time to go play fetch. I could hear her snide. See what happens when you don't listen to me? Already, like it was inevitable, I wouldn't survive much longer to hear the real deal. I sniffle in frustration and try to shake the feeling away with the rain that drips down my face. She's always right, of course. After all, a mother's words or your grandmother's words are always correct. No matter how factually correct you are, they are always correct. For a short moment I had it. The defiance was the right decision despite it all. Lost in thought, I lose control of my limbs, still not used to using them all at once, and it's enough to throw me back into the slick earth. Because the earth is, after all, slick. Now I really want to cry. The storm is harsh and the thick canopy of trees above does little to shield me from its rage. Instead, they turn their leaves away passively. I want to scream my mother's harshest curses at them. I think the word begins with F and ends with K, and it's not called flick. That would really reveal the depletion of my sanity, wouldn't it? Exactly. Letting out all your feelings like that could be bad for your energy levels. I snort weakly into a puddle and shakily lift myself from the ground. For the middle of summer, the rain comes down like ice. I don't know why I misread that as rice. I prefer it to be rice. I watch it distort the reflection in the puddle with ripples. In the brief moments where the reflection almost settles, I see piercing yellow eyes and dark fur, sleek and clinging to the small vulnerable form of a wolf pup. I was supposed to say it's some kind of werewolf. What have you done, Basil? The voice of my grandmother hisses in my mind. I need to get back home. Are we actually a doge? Are we a doge in all this? I tear away from the paddle and trek on. Please, please, something lead me back home. Maybe that's a risky thing to ask of this forest though, sorry. But my question is, how did you get here in the first place? That's what I would like to know. How you stumbled upon these dark and dreepy woods in the first place. Because something answers. It's so faint, I wonder if it's even real. A howl breaks through the wind, or perhaps it's the wind that parts the sound may ample though. Fighting my way through the storm has me now fighting to stay awake. And the part of my brain that voices reason is starting to be too tired to remember what reason is. Where did I become from? All my instincts scream to ignore it, but I'm already the cat killed by curiosity. And there's no rats around to deviate my attention to in order for me to not feel like I am the sole prey here. And underneath the consequences and caution, I want to follow it. My heart pounds in my fuzzy ears. I try to convince myself it's because of fear. Exactly. It's all in your head. It's not real. It's just a psychological weapon. I need to focus on where the howling comes from. The closer I get to the sound, the more it begins to resemble crying. Just don't go towards the crying. It's going to be bad news for everyone. It's a horror scenario. Never go towards a crying child. The storm also seems to retract its claws. Was it the forest showing mercy or submission to something more formidable? I've lived in the woods my whole life. Oh, okay, so that's probably how you stumbled upon these woods in the first place. Because you've always been here. But why now is it so dark and dreepy? I should know better than anyone to never get too comfortable. Yes, never become the opposite of paranoid. It's better to be too paranoid than the opposite, which I can't think of a word. Gullible, possibly? A red light pierces through the dark. That's kind of how I feel, and honestly, I'd rather be one way than the other way, and that one way is paranoid rather than being gullible, because it means I'm always susceptible to anything regardless of what anyone says. I'd like to take a step back and see what the situation is at hand. And my situation here is all woodish and dark with a red sky. There's a mansion in the middle of the woods. Of course, there's a mansion in the middle of the woods. I love the art of this game, by the way. There's 3 primary colors going on here, which is grey, red, and black. Oh, wait a minute. What did I say there? From the distance, it would look abandoned if not for the hazy red light coming from the rooftop. Bless the scroll wheel for being able to go forward or back. I squint. Is that a greenhouse? With green paint on it? I'm kidding, by the way. A shadowy movement in the glass startles me, and I duck into the tall, neglected grass that surrounds the mansion's yards. I don't know what I said in a previous comment there. I peek through the blades, and it's gone. Sorry, it's gone. The grass blades, I mentioned. Did I imagine it? No. I release a nervous sigh and observe the grounds for any sign of life or death. Everything is death, okay? Because everything shall return to the earth. It was a bad idea coming here. A terrible one, even. I can't stay here. I retreat back into the shadows of the forest, keeping the mansion in the line of sight. When I feel bold enough to turn my back to it, a gale slams into me like a wall. Kind of like how in a 35 degrees centigrade day that you're in a supermarket all nice and cool, then you have to go outside and it hits you like a wall. I tumble back hard, rolling into a rough slide in the tall grass with a cry. It takes me a moment to recover from my swirling vision. I let out a whimper as pain blooms from my arm. It's too dark to see clearly, but when I try to move it, the pain swells. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. No, 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 no. I grip my teeth and get back onto my feet, keeping my weight off my arm. Then make for the forest again. Again, it denies me entrance. Panic starts to seep from... What do you mean? You just went from the forest to this mansion, but yet for some odd reason you can't do a U-turn? Panic starts to seep through my bones. I almost wish I could go back to feeling hopeless rather than feeling trapped. I stir the trees like they'll suddenly start playing nice, but beings as ancient as them do not bend to anyone's will but their own. The wind gives one more shove. it insists I move forward. I bear my adolescent's fangs. Oh, so you are a dog, or a wolfie at the very least. Can I pat you? As I acted to smother the hurt, my choices were nothing but illusions. Then I faced the mansion once again. I creep along the warm brick walls of the mansion trying to find a way in. Our first multiple choice option, and as always on this channel, when there's a multiple choice option, you have to save. It's the rule, I don't make it up. I'll go somewhere else. A faint knocking grabs my attention. I pad to the back of the mansion and my saving grace comes in the form of a door left slightly ajar. Aha! I nudge my nose into the tight gap and relief washes over me when it parts. Then... an ear-piercing screech echoes through the mansion as the hinges shift for the first time in a long time. How do you even know this is your first time coming to this mansion, supposedly? Ice floods my veins. I stay frozen in the doorway. If this mansion is inhabited, there's no way I didn't just announce my entrance to the entire populace. Fear takes over again as my back paw is already stepping back so I can once again attempt to run as far away as I can from this place. But when I look back, there's no door. Crack. Oh. Thunder cracks explosively behind me, startling me so badly I do the opposite of what I wanted and completely throw myself into the mansion. The door slams on my way in. I breathe shallowly, and when I come to my senses, I'm in a kitchen. It's so dark inside, the only source of light comes from the window above the counters. Everything beyond its reach is a void. That means nothing if you didn't know. I see a kitchen table and scratch my nails along the musty wood flooring in a rush to get beneath it. I stay underneath the table as my breathing gets as close to resembling normal as I can currently pull it. My eyes are wide and my ears point to the sky, listening for anything that sounds like a threat, including my phone. The only sounds I find are the heavy drum of rain and the occasional creak as the walls of the mansion breathe in the night air. When I feel more confident that there's a lack of life, supposedly, inside the manor, I crawl back into the open and immediately shake off as much rain and mud and regret as I can. I let myself celebrate the tiny luxury of finally escaping the maws of the weather, but I didn't let my nerves calm just yet. There could be a broken window, and we can feel the harsh rain coming through, or at least the moisture of it. Once my eyes adjust better to the dark, I take the time to study my surroundings more. I notice a hearth that lacked any recent maintenance. Dishes crowded on the counter, and so much dust that I have to smother a sneeze, because a sneeze will spawn more dust in the air. This place hasn't been occupied in a long time. Well, at the very least, physically occupied. Spiritually, there could be lots of beings here. Surely I can allow myself to breathe just a little bit easier in this space, at least until the storm wanes. I suck in a deep inhale and tread on cautiously. As I stalk further in, I hold my breath at every corner, carefully looking in all directions for danger. The rest of the mansion is as devoid of life as the kitchen. Most rooms have closed doors. The ones I could see in were graciously empty, sans the derelict furnishings within. Barely anything is in decent shape. And I'm in the worst shape of them all in comparison to all the furniture here. Anyways, I couldn't guess how long it's been since a human cherished this home. But from the scratched hardwood floors to the broken, intricate-looking side table abandoned in a dark corner, I got the idea that this place was devoid of care even when it was lived in. But did the original inhabitants have a choice, though? That's the question. My nails tap as I limp into the hallway of the second floor as my mind settles from all the adrenaline. The ache in my front leg, and the heat of my body starts to take the forefront. Now, in any of these scenarios, what you see on screen is just as important as what happens off screen. So there's always story going on in the background that you never see on screen. And there's also like times where there's a little bit of time that's transpired by. So let's say when you sleep, you go from night till morning. Stuff happens in between that time, aside from, well, sleep time. It's hard to make them out in the dark, but paintings line the walls from end to end. There's a couple of faded landscapes, some of mountains, others of castles. Then there's a couple of portraits. One portrait in particular catches my eye. I stop in front of it. I stare at the portrait, then start to foolishly think it's staring back. Surely it's just the slight fever setting in, making me come up with silly veins. Look, when I move, its eye pupils follow me. I haven't lost my mind just yet, though, because ominous music starting to come into play here, because as I observe the side profile of a pale woman, I notice she's eerily the clearest painting I've seen so far, almost like it's just recently been there, or just recently been cleaned. And when she turns her head to look down on my tiny form, every hair on my body goes stiff. When the woman in the painting steps out of the wall, the lovely features captured in oil begin to melt off. Smooth ivory skin shrivels to a deathly pallor. The elaborate gown that clings to sharp shoulders rots, and her torso parts open like a blooming rose, revealing decaying bone and organs that run down her skirt like horrific decor. Well then, aren't you a very, red sighting? I was about to say pretty sighting or ominous sighting, but I'm just going to say that you are a sighting to say the least. I am already running away as fast as I physically can. I clumsily scramble to get away on my hurt leg, then I hear something that might just be worse than a ghost. A ghoul. The word woody spicy. Those are two words I never think go together. The woody spicy scent of incense, oh I see, incense, fills the humid air because of a combination of both extracts, I imagine. The natural wood with the added spice. That now thickens into a hazy purple fog. Oh God, do not breathe it in. And the sound of chains moving in a controlled rhythm rattles me to the marrow in my bones. Footsteps follow, growing louder with the cleaning of the chains from the direction of the staircase. Also, you can kind of fathom out your own conclusions of the story by just looking at the environments, rather than just the words on the screen. My breath quickens and I slide to a halt and backtrack away from them. When I dare to look behind me, the glowing apparition of a woman's hunched-over form stumbles towards me, dragging a trail of gore with a wet squelch. Hide, I need to hide. But where? My eyes dart to every inch of the hallway, desperately searching for a small sanctuary. The footsteps are right behind me, and the ghost is right in front of me, and this hallway now feels like a tomb. It's more like a ghoul than a ghost. It's like a ghost possessing a rotting body. I press against the wall, or something along those lines. I press against the wall when all I see are doors firmly shut. Then my heart skips a beat when I notice the faint tap of wood that comes from behind me. I spin and the outline of the door reveals itself. I waste no time to shoving my muzzle between the crack to wrench it open. When the secret door is pried open enough, I hurl myself through it and back into the darkness. Why a secret door? I don't know. A door creaks beyond my hiding. I bump into something hard and almost trip over it. I look and a dark iron staircase curls up to a high ceiling. A hatch is open at the top, letting the rain from outside drip down the cold metal. The footsteps head in my direction once again. A spirally staircase! I don't dare to breathe or move. After all, audio is an indicator of where you are. Well then, there you are. Excuse me. The voice shocks me into moving. No way was I sticking around to find out what fate awaited me if I didn't go away immediately. Every fibre of my being is ringing with danger as I climb the stairs with only adrenaline instructing my limbs. I move and slip up the iron steps until I'm bursting onto the roof and back into the storm. Oh, we're outside of the house now. I'm not thinking anymore. I see the greenhouse I'd spotted earlier and sprint towards it as fast as I can. I trip over a mess of vines, searching for a space to crawl into. Above me, thunder and lightning roar, but I know very well that's the least of my concerns. A bright flash of white blinds me and my claws slide on wet tiles. Sometimes when you're in a survival scenario when your flashlight has just run out of batteries, sometimes thunder's flash can be a good way to see what you're going through. A door slams shut in the distance, bouncing from wall to wall until it reached the rooftop. Then everything goes still. The energy of the manor completely shifts. Electricity makes my first stand, and I shake the rain from my face. Everything with charges, neurons, electrons, protons, was it photons? They're all electricity in the end. The whole world has fallen silent save for the sound of a chilling drip. Basil, I freeze. Slowly my eyes follow the coil of dead roots on the grey floor of the greenhouse. Drip. I follow their trail, all the way to the blood that drips onto the dirty tiles and to the pale feet beside it. Drip. My eyes climb up and I don't think I'll ever be able to forget the sight before me as short as I live. Drip again. Lightning flashes bright through the tall windows. Blooming rose bushes stretch along them with white roses speckled across dark leaves like stars in the night sky. The bright flowers start to bleed red before my very eyes. At the center of the ones most thoroughly soaked in crimson, a small girl stands with her back to me. Blood drips from tiny bite marks all over her hand. Bite marks? What the hell's gone all over you? And one of the red bulbs is crushed between her delicate fingers. Roses? Must be a rose. Ah, drip, drip, drip. Oh, it's blood from rose thorns, I imagine. I love the limited color palette. I think it's so good, actually, having a limited color palette, because it really focuses in on those color thematical schemes when put together. Like, you got grayscale with red. That's pretty ominous, I'm not going to lie. Instead of the strong scent of roses, the smell of burning paper and wilting lilacs floods my senses. A whine involuntarily crawls up my throat and cuts through the silence. Then time resumes once again. The girl turns and her gaze pierces right through me. The bulb drops from her hands. She doesn't say a word as all of her attention now hones onto me. Black dots start to appear in the corners of my vision. black dots. I think she's walking towards me now. But everything fades to dark first. Oh. My fever is brutal through the night. I slip in and out of consciousness to flames beneath my skin and an ache that I'd rather sleep off than face. Collapsed into something here from exhaustion or from fear or something along those lines. Maybe an amalgamation of different fears and feelings. I try to let my body go back to sleep, and I suddenly feel something yank open my jaws to shove something down my throat. The intrusion makes me violently resist, but I'm far too weak to fend the intruder away. Perhaps they're trying to give me food. The dark takes me into its arms once again. I wake to the tang of rusty metal and humid air. The unfamiliar and uncomfortable sensations make my eyes snap open. It's dark and damp past the bars of the small cage that holds me. Oh no! My jaw is tight as I process my surroundings. But I notice the ghost staring at me from outside my metal prison. Whoa. I yelp and throw my body in the opposite direction of her, hitting the back of said cage. I expect the bite of hard metal on my back, but instead something smooth bends around my shape. The hiss it lets out tells me it didn't like that very much. My claws scrape the cold floor of the cage loudly as I spin and see the bars behind me form defensive stances and bend their fangs from their viper-shaped hands. Careful! Their venom will make your blood solidify in your body in seconds. That wouldn't be a very pleasant way to die. I look at the ghost in horror. I'm breathing so hard and quick, I think I'll die from lack of oxygen in my brain before that could possibly happen. Or perhaps both will happen simultaneously. I don't know. The vipers settle back into metal bars, and I make myself small so I don't risk testing their patience. The ghost is not a ghost, but a girl. But also a ghost. Her hair looks like ink that's been knocked over and violently spilled onto the floor. It melts into the dark surroundings and contrasts her grey, sickly-looking skin. Her expression is blank, and her hands tightly clutch her white gown. Do you bite? I don't think so, as long as you don't threaten me. Do you? I want to ask. I dare to show my teeth in a snarl and watch as she shows hers, but in a small smile. The fur along my spine stands up. She moves and I flinch. The girl crawls towards the cage and I curl my nails. She reaches for me, a pale hand passing between the bars without any resistance. It's still right in front of my snout. Was she checking to see if I would really bite? Has she no fear? Offering her hand so fearlessly into the space of a beast? I may only be a pup, but the force of my jaws can pierce through her palm. Yes, definitely. I'm going to... Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to let time run out. I look at the girl and her expression scares me into crushing her hand with my fangs. Fire fills my mouth and I jerk away to wipe the girl's blood off my tongue with a paw. Blood is supposed to taste like pennies, yet the second I come into contact with hers, it burned like acid. The girl's hands disappears from my sight and I follow its movement. Wait, does letting time run out resort us to biting? Or perhaps it's because our fear consumed us, so therefore we would defaultly select the bite option. Her lip wobbles as tears leak from her ghoulish eyes as she cradles her bleeding hand in her retreat away from the cage. I feel a pain in my chest and my ears flatten on my head. Red stains her white dress. After taking a few deep breaths, she curls her fingers and tests some movement. I start when she looks at me with a proud expression. despite the pain she must be suffering. I avert my eyes in discomfort. I wonder how long it'll take for you to lose that fierceness. Snap! I feel my body go numb. Something behind me catches the girl's attention and she frowns. I'm fine. I jerk my head back and see nothing. My eyes snap back to her and she stands. She wipes her hands on her dress, showing no sign of caring how dirty it has become. If you want to survive, you have to listen to my instructions. Okay, doggy? My name is Basil. Don't call me doggy. Even though I am a doggy, don't call me a doggy. She tilts her head like she actually expects me to respond. Don't try to be too brave. If you're afraid, you'll stay careful. The others had too much fight. It made them foolish. My heart pounds in my chest at her words. She gives me another haunting smile. Is it definitely haunting? Or was it always like that? When your arm is better, I'll take you for a walk before he gets back. Who? Is this what she sounds like when she's excited? It's unsettling. I jump when she suddenly moves close to the cage again and I back away without risking the viper's fangs. The scent of burning parchment and wilting lilacs returns. The girl's hair falls off her shoulder and I expect ink to trickle down and dye her white dress black. My name is Dove. Okay, I wonder what that's symbolic of, because of the bird dove of the pigeon family. Horrible to meet you, Dove. Roses, or 1 roses. Of these chapters, I spent the night nursing the dregs of my fever. When I'd first woken up, I didn't notice of how much had already been soothed. But now vague memories of violating hands surface in my thoughts. Did that girl, Dove, gave me some kind of medicine during the height of my fever? My body still feels uncomfortably warm. I rest my head on one arm and glance at the one that has been hurt earlier. A clean bandage is firmly wrapped around it. Not enough to cut off the blood flow, but enough to restrict its movement. Was this also Dove's handiwork? I sigh softly through my nose, then close my eyes. Time passes ambiguously in the cage. With nothing to reference, I don't know if it's been mere hours or days. We all have a general perception of time, but obviously without a clock or a calendar, we can't really determine how much time has gone by. We can just watch as the sun rises and falls. Does this universe even have a sun? A bowl of water sits in the corner of my cage, and I know from the dryness of my throat that I need to hydrate. But I've yet to muster up the courage to approach the bars that slither and rattle every so often. When I'm desperate enough to finally quench my thirst, the bars relievingly keep their metal forms. Feeling better now, I curl into a ball and my tail cradles my face. I want to go home. Exhaustion catches up to me once again. I fall asleep on crusty metal and wake on dusty wood. The sound of my wind chimes alert me into consciousness. My eyes snap open and my retainers are immediately burned by the colour that floods into them. Burned means red, isn't it? On the floor in front of me is a kaleidoscope of lights created by the morning sun. By the way, the only colour that exists outside of black and white is red. A stark contrast to the dark and dreary setting that I was previously confined to. Maybe I dreamed it all in a feverish haze. I check on the gauze around my arm. It's still there. A weight around my neck brings me back into focus. A collar is secured around my throat. Attached to it is a long and heavy chain that leads to the leg of a large wardrobe in the corner of the room. I don't know why I said mouth there. I really don't know why. And you see that change there from scene to scene, from being in a cage to now being here? Stuff has definitely happened between then and there. The bedroom. I take it in my latest cage. There are no longer venomous bars to keep me, but the state of confinement has not changed. At least it's not something that is trying to kill me. My eyes move from the rainbows on the floor, even though there's only red, black and white as colours, to the line of the chain restraining me to the rest of the room. Then to the rest of the room. I look at the windows and find swirling murals and expressive paintings of various creatures and monsters. The sun behind them illuminates the floor with speckles of colour like a stained glass window. Past the frame of the window, the drawings continue in nonsensical scrawl. Less art decorates the walls, but shelves with cracked paint pots and hanging tangles of ivy take their place. Dirty cups and bowls sit forgotten in a dark corner. I briefly note 2 shallow dishes near where I lay. They look like they would be used by a pet. Judging from the surprising lack of grime from under them, it hasn't been that long since they were last used. Dusty books and crumpled parchment litter the floorboards. Taking up half of the room is a canopied bed. Dark curtains are pulled tightly together, preventing me from seeing inside. The sound of scratching captures my attention. I drag my gaze past piles of books. There, sitting on a raggedy blanket, hunched over and scribbling over the print in a book is Dove. She gnaws on her lip and pinches her brows. You okay there, Dove? You alright? I can hear her whispering something to herself. No, no, no. That won't work. I slowly lift myself off the floor, crooning at the sound of clanging chains following my movement. Dove makes no move acknowledging my presence, so I continue approaching her. When I'm closer to her back, I'm able to get a better look at what she's furiously writing. Scribbles of occult symbols make the words on the pages completely illegible. I swallow a lump in my throat. Cult symbols. What the... Oh! The collar around my neck feels very heavy right now. I wonder if the collar itself is imbued with occult-like powers. Dove suddenly tears a page out from the book. You know that book only has a finite amount of pages, you know. The jarring sound makes me jump and I slam into a tower of books, sending it toppling to the floor. She'll definitely notice that. Dread weighs heavily on me. I look back at Dove. She's now staring at me with wide eyes. Oh, hello. Hope you're doing well in your little corner. You're awake. I release a small yelp and stare at her dumbfounded. She is pretty pleased to see us awake, sorry. She's brighter. Or maybe it's the luminous light filtering through the bedroom window. Something about it paints her in a rose-tinted lens that makes my weariness waver. Rose-tinted lens. Roses are red. There's only red as a colour. That feeling instantly vanishes when she gets up and rushes towards me. I'm just saying that in an environmental manner, where everything is red. I'm not complaining about the lack of other colours. I'm just saying that it's rose-tinted and it's red. Oh, hello. I run away as fast as my legs allow me, but my air supply is abruptly cut off and I'm thrown off my feet. A sharp howl is pulled from my throat. I look behind me and see that the chain on my collar pulled taut. I'd reached its limit. I then see Dove standing in the spot I had bolted from. Her gaze creeps along the chain, making its way to my crumpled form. Icy blue eyes stare into mine and I shudder. It feels like she could unravel me through sight alone. She looks at me like she knows. Then she perks up, snapping the tension away. Oh right, you're probably starving. The others were also very skittish when they had empty bellies. What do you mean by others? I know you mentioned that earlier, but what do you mean by others? Her voice trails off as though she's become lost in thought. She also looks like she is... Oh, she's looking towards her right. I thought she's lacking eye pupils for a second. She starts weaving through the mess of book piles to reach the bedroom door. Wait here. I don't have much of a choice. Exactly. It's not like I can go anywhere else. Dove returns with a bread roll and a bowl. Bread roll? I'm a dog. But then again, dogs are omnivores and not cannibals. Or carnivorous, sorry, like cats. So yeah. Bread? Perhaps in wheat form it would be more acceptable rather than man-manufactured food. She sets the bowl down a couple feet in front of me and retreats back to chew on her own food. I tentatively approach it. The bread smells like heaven. Ooh. I lick my lips on instinct. Perhaps it smells too good to be true. It must have been ages since I last ate, because I watch her tear chunks from it and mark every little crumb falling onto her white dress with yearning. I look down at the bowl she left for me. The sight of red fleshy chunks greets me. Now this is more doggy language. Not like one of those people that believe that the best option for their dog is for them to be vegan. Raw meat. She gave me a bowl of raw meat. I can't eat this. Well, maybe I could, but the idea of it has nausea coursing through me. I stare at the flesh blood pouring at the bottom of the bowl. Then I glance over at the bread, then back down to the bowl, feeling confounded. My stomach growls. I can feel saliva start to drip down the side of my mouth. I can't do it. Are you gonna let it go to waste? Oh, Dove's voice comes from right above me and fear flutters in my stomach. You don't have to be so close. I'm gonna eat it, okay? Okay then. My eyes snap up. Dove reaches for me and I flinch, scattering away. She kneels in front of a bowl and dips her hands into it, crushing a fistful of squishy red meat between her fingers. She brings the raw meat to her mouth. Okay, another one of those. I watch her eat it. Bile rises in my throat as I watch her chew through the raw flesh and swallow it with a sickly gulp. You are eating raw meat. But my question is, what meat is it? What animal did it come from? She covers her mouth with the back of her hand and gags, then looks at me. Oh dear, something evil has possessed you. Oh, she smiles at me, her teeth stained in a glistening red. What a horrible taste. A thin stream of blood falls from the corner of her mouth. I suppose you'd like something a little more appetizing? She gags again, then runs out of the room. I hear the sound of her retching from another room. Dove returns with a new bowl of what looks like stew. I inspect it thoroughly, checking for insects or anything inedible. When I summarize there's nothing of the sort, I dig in greedily. My eyes begin to sting after the first couple bites. The stew is so bland. It makes me yearn for my grandmother's cooking so badly. Well, not all of us have a Red Riding Hood equivalent of a grandmother that bakes everything to perfection, okay? From the corner of my eye, I can see Dove watching me like a hawk. Like all it'll take is for a single blink for me to disappear. If only I could. As I finish eating the stew, a soft thudding captures my attention. I look back to see my tail wagging against the floor. But if it's against the floor, then that must mean you're not happy because of the fact that, well, if a tail of a dog is seeping downwards, then that's really bad. But then again, it's a contrary of cats where if their tail is up, that means they're about to pounce. I feel myself shrink with embarrassment. I immediately cease its movement, but not before Dove takes notice. Looks like your energy has returned. Her eyes move to my arm. Does it still hurt? I stare at Dove, then hesitantly put my weight on my wrapped arm. The sharp pain is mostly gone, but a dull ache still remains. If the opportunity for me to run away came, I could probably do it, but not without difficulty. I make a frustrated whine. Dove tilts her head at me, considering my reply. We can think like a human because we're thinking in words, but obviously we cannot speak like a human, even though this is an occultic, Gothic-like visual novel tale. She approaches me again, slowly this time. I hold my breath as she comes close, her hands hovering near the collar around my neck. I'm suddenly hyper-aware how quiet it is. There's no drum of rain or crack of thunder to be heard from outside. Hope dares to grow inside my racing heart. Will you hurt me if I take it off? I play dumb. I stare at her blankly. Dove gives me a disappointed look and gnaws on her bottom lip. Her hands hover for a short moment, then she nods. The silence. The silence is sometimes the answer. The weight of the collar lifts off my shoulders. Then I bolt. Oh, my swift escape shoves Dove aside. I barely see her get thrown to the floor as I make for the open bedroom door. Dove makes a panic noise behind me. Oh no, what's gonna be happening if we escape? It fades out in my rush to leave her behind. Then I'm back into the hallway where the horrors began. I need to get to the kitchen. I sprint to the stairs, but suddenly I'm skidding to a stop when a wall meets me at the end of the hall instead of the staircase. Yeah, I stare in confusion. Did I go the wrong way? I look around the hall. I don't remember seeing this many doors. The environment is changing all the time. A sinking feeling unravels in my gut. I ran down a new hallway, then turned into another, then another. My exploration of the manor was cut short when I first arrived, so maybe I can't remember everything well enough, but I swear that these are not the same halls I walked through before. After I turn into the 15th hallway in this new labyrinth, the sound of something being dragged cuts off my thoughts. I look behind me, fear pulsed in my veins. A ghostly figure slowly walks down the cross-section of another hall. Oh, great. Oh dear, it took me a while to notice that the head is near the middle top left of the screen there. Oh my, you are quite the hairy ghoul. And you got no meat on you as well. Long hair protrudes from its head, running down to the floor stiffly like straw and hiding most of its long, thin limbs. I watch it disappear around the corner, completely frozen in my spot. Another ghost. I've never seen this one this corrupted before. I now feel extremely vulnerable, like a beacon standing in the long and open corridor. A tapping noise is next. My heart pounds violently in my chest as I search for a sound. I immediately see another ghost heading straight for me. I yelp and crush myself against the wall as if it'll make me invisible. Well, this time it doesn't look that ghostly, but more animalistic. Although it could just be a human hunched over, heavily mutated. This ghost staggers towards me with bony knees knocking together. A thin veil curtains its upper body, and something that resembles a bird's beak peeks out at its chest. The closer it gets, the better I'm able to make out the detail of its leathery skin, and the beady bloodshot eyes that daper across its face above the rotting beak. Needle-thin arms bend sharply at the elbow and reach back behind the ghost's head. It balances on its elbows and pulls itself forward on them. I make myself paper thin and shiver when part of its elbows brushed against one of my paws. I start breathing again when it passes quietly, then back away into an intersection of the hallways. Another ghost almost tramples me. Oh my god, there's a bunch of them now. What are these abominations? Two ghosts follow one another down the path of a bird-like ghost. One is a cluster of what looks like fungi and twisting fabric that melts into a bumpy flesh. A stringy network of mycelium trails behind it. The other creates a sound of glass crushing together with every steady step it takes. Its arms stick out like pieces of wood that lightly swing as it walks, and where its faces should be is a void framed by jagged, broken pieces of porcelain skin. I can still make out the raggedy made uniform that clings to its bloated form. I follow the ghosts in a trance, like a line of school children. How do you even know what school is? You're a dog. They walk along a well-known path. Normally, when a ghost is corrupted from being trapped in the land of the living, every semblance of their humanity is lost. Most of it, I wouldn't say all of it. So where did those ghosts stalk to with so much purpose? They navigate the hallways without hesitation, twisting and turning through a route already well worn, then so painfully easy. I have been led back to the kitchen, and there, standing on the kitchen table, is Dove, delicately twisting an incandescent bulb into the hanging light fixture. Dried black tears stain her cheeks, but expression betrays no sign of dejection. Another bulb is held loosely in her other hand. This one has been burnt out so badly that no light can penetrate its ashy blackened surface. It took 40 years to develop this type of filament. The ghosts surround her. Oh, hello. I watch them reach for her, and I open my jaws to bark out a warning, but I choke on my rising panic. What on earth is this going on here? Is she some kind of necromancer? Dove doesn't notice them and continues to screw in the bulb. I read that these bulbs can stay lit for up to 1200 hours. Claws brush against her skirt. And yet, after less than a week, their legacy of lighting the dark has been snubbed out forever. With one last turn of her wrist, light envelops the room. Something so wonderful. Dove stares into the bulb's light and her fingers caress the glass. Only breaks in a place like this. The ghosts have vanished. Dove gives no hint of awareness for the presence that had just left them. My blood thuds in my ears. Could she not see them? I look at the door that I had used to enter the mansion. I hear Dove dust off her hands and toss the old bulb into a box where it shatters among other pieces of glass. Whoop! She sighs wearily. How long will this cycle continue for? Cycle, you say? Like repeating events? Events that repeat themselves over and over again? I barely hear her words. Or perhaps the fact that, because of the amount of endings that we get, the true ending could be a break of the cycle. A good end might be that we're still within the cycle, but it's a slightly better outcome. And of course, the bad ends will always lead us to an infinite loop. Instead, I stare at the wall where the back door should be, and there is no door. I immediately freak out. I run to the wall, ignoring the ache of my arm, and scratch at old wallpaper, hoping the door was only hidden behind it. My claws tear through the wood, but as I continue scratching, the outline of the door does not reveal itself. It's almost like if it is never there at all to begin with. I back away, staring at the shredded decoration and breathing rapidly. It's not there anymore. Excuse me? Did you know anything about this supposed door, Dove? I turn my head up and see Dove sitting on the kitchen table, swinging her legs. She stares at the wall I had torn up and gives me a blank expression. I explode. I just realised that we have expressions on the bottom left here. My body ignites with fiery rage, like growl and snarl at her. Bark, 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 bark. She frowns and her eyes turn downcast with guilt. I don't know how to get it back. Let's see. I force her to help. I look past Dove and see the window. I perk up. The window. We can break it. I pause and take note of how far the window is from the floor. Well, maybe not me. Dove sits on the table looking bored. I take a deep breath. Bark. Dove jumps and her eyes swivel down to me. What? I point my nose at the window and it takes Dove a second to understand my gesture. She blinks then turns her head to the window. Her lips frown in confusion. The window? She looks down at me with furrowed brows. What about it? My tail wags behind me. I ignore it and look around for something that would help her understand what I want. Like a hammer? I spot a stool underneath the table and my ears stand up straight. Dove leans over and watches me drag the stool out with my teeth. I throw my body weight back to pull it out until it falls over. Then I look at Dove and point my snoot at the window again. She hops off the table and picks up the stool. She holds it up still wearing a befuddled expression. You want me to? She raises a brow at me. Throw it at the window? Yes. Yep. I nod and my tail wags quickly. Dove looks at the window hesitantly. She stares at her reflection in the glass. I never tried breaking the windows before. Dove stumbles slightly when I grab the bottom of her dress to lead her to it. When I feel her slightly resist, I look up and Dove's face appears paler than I thought was possible. We have entered a new age, or a new shade of pale, unfathomable for human comprehension. But then again, Dove doesn't exactly appear to be human. I see her swallow before she starts moving on her own. She climbs onto the counter with the stool in her hands. It slips slightly in her grip and she whips her hand on her dress. She raises the stool and my heart starts to quicken. The stool comes down, then stops. I whine in confusion. Dove stares into the window with wide eyes. I follow her line of sight and see it. A pale hand grips Dove's arm. I look past it and let out a sharp cry. Dove's reflection stares back with blackened eyes and a wide, distorted smile that leaks dark bile. It's not tears, it's bile. I can see Dove's hand tremble, then the reflection speaks. Bad girl, you should know better by now. I spread through my veins. I hear Dove's breath hitch. Then I hear something else. Tiny wooden footsteps fill the silence. I stay completely still and slowly slide my pupils to see small flutters of movement from the shadows in my peripherals. I hold my breath. The footsteps start to grow louder. I hear Dove hiccup and my eyes slide back to her in panic. The reflection crushes Dove's wrist, black webs spread from where they touch. The reflection's beady eyes crinkle as it grins, stretches wider. Then it pulls Dove in closer until their foreheads almost touch. Behave, Dove. The reflection barks out a howling laugh, then shoves Dove away from the window. Dove shrieks and flails her arms. I yelp and throw myself under her to soften her fall. She crushes me with her weight, and we fall into a messy heap on the floor. Why did you do that? She restrained you? She, locked you up in a cage of venomous metal bars, and now you've done this for her. Why? My vision swells and my whole body rages in agony. The sound of the reflection's laughter fades away and wooden feet start to retreat to my relief. I wonder if this entity that we're dealing with here is the main antagonist of this entire tale. When we recover again, Dove stands on shaky legs, and I can see her trying to control the haunted expression she wears. She holds her wrist, and black veins now fade from where the reflection had touched her. I let out a soft "oh-woo." She got hurt because of me. She stumbles to the table and plants herself back on top of it. I whimper and go back to scratch the door more in desperation. I'm sorry. Enough. I'm tired of seeing you willow in your despair. I reply with an indignant huff. Pouty cheeks. I see Duff puff her cheeks in annoyance. I turn my head away and rest it on my paws. There's no way out. It's better for you to just accept it. A growl rumbles in my throat. Even the front door is gone. So instead of wasting time, you may as well follow me and keep yourself occupied. I wish I could cry. My ears lay flat against my skull. I've landed myself right in the mouth of a carnivorous flower with the sweetness of shelter to lure me in, and I never considered whether it would let me go once I treaded past its sharp teeth. I take a peek at Dove. She doesn't seem to have any problem with being a caged bird. Yes! Thank you for saying that, because I know that the word dove being a bird, like collared dove, turtle dove, a dove along those lines, and she has the complexity of a dove as well, in a color schematical way. Is she so comfortable living in these conditions that she can't even see how wrong it is? How can anyone possibly live like this? Well, she probably thought the same as you at the very beginning. Her patience reaches end and she slides off the kitchen table. I cry out when she hurls me off the ground, and I bare my fangs at her when her face appears right before mine. My glare doesn't faze her. Follow, wolf. There is much to do. Of course there's much to do, but with that shadowy figure always there to try and haunt us, well, we're not always going to be able to have our own way here, are we? We return to the labyrinth of hallways. Dove seems to know her way around them well. Now that I'm not frantically running through them, I notice how much different the atmosphere of the manor is. Less dirt coats the floor, ceiling lights illuminate the hallways, and it almost feels peaceful. Dove stops by a closet in the hallway. She grabs onto the handles of the doors and opens up to reveal shelves and cupboards of miscellaneous tools and supplies. She climbs a stool to reach the highest shelf and retrieves the box with small buckets and brushes. The stool she stands on starts to sway and I tense. She climbs back down without issue, then leads me into a room I recognize. She makes her way to the broken side table I'd spotted when I was first exploring the rooms of the mansion, and I take the time to look around. A dining table with only three chairs takes up most of the room. I'm not too sure about that sentence there. Candles spike up from the top like stalagmites? I haven't seen that word before. There's so many that I think they would render a fire hazard if they were to all be lit. Hardened wax drip over the edge. I can see the edge of a fountain pen, as well as scapes of paper. I'm unable to see a well of ink from my position, but I assume that is what runs down the duty tablecloth in dark splotches. A glint catches my attention. On the other side of the room, I'm unsettled by the mirrors that cover the wall from floor to ceiling. I swallow a lump that forms in my throat and do not let my eyes linger on them. I lay on the floor and watch her slather strongly scented glue on the broken leg of the table. She roughly connects the broken leg to the rest of the table and fans it with her hand so it dries faster. She tests its sturdiness with a light finger, then scrounges her nose when it wobbles. Oh, this pouty face again, where her cheeks appear wider than her forehead. She twists around and digs in her box, then pulls out a roll of twine with a confident expression on her face. My brows furrow together. Dove twirls the string around the leg and binds it tightly. When she does, she sets the table straight again. It still rocks unsteadily, but it stays standing. That seems to be good enough for Dove, because she picks up her box again and gives it a nod. And crash. What goes on? I leap from my spot on the floor and spin to a loud noise. In the corner of the room, the long-haired ghost from earlier stands bent over a broken vase. Ooh. I flinch when Dove lets out a startled noise and starts to stride towards it. I bark in alarm. It's dangerous. She ignores me. Dearie. I grab the bark off her gown with my teeth to stop her. Dove's demeanor goes from angry to taken aback. She stops and looks down at me. I shock myself for my own actions and quickly drop her skirt. Dove considers me for a moment, then switches her attention back to the ghost and marches over to him. You colts! My jaw drops. I don't need another person to clean up after. The ghost laces its long fingers together and bows its head. When Dove gets close to it, she stumbles and cries out. The ghost snaps his head back up to her. Dove checks the bottom of her foot and sees a shard embedded in the flesh. Red blooms from the small wound. The ghost makes a growling sound and steps towards Dove. She hisses when it walks through the mess of glass and drags it with them. It's concerned for her? I observe their interactions befuddled. Everything I know about corrupted ghosts has been challenged. Oh, I thought they were all spooky and scary and all that jazz. I pause to think about how the ghosts rushed to her side earlier. The ghost tugs on Dove's sleeve like it's asking for forgiveness. She continues to badger it while digging the shard out of her foot. I study them curiously so. It wasn't because they wanted to cause her harm? I don't know anymore. I trail behind Dove when she leaves to treat the small cut and when she returns to clean up the mess. We leave the ghost and Dove continues down whatever to-do list she has on her mind. On her mind? Okay. When she paints over the scratches on the kitchen door, trying to match the old wallpaper, she speaks to me. Have you met all of them already? How many of them are there? Because we've seen at least 4 different entities, including one that somehow escaped a painting. She doesn't speak again until we run into another ghost. And another one. It waits in the hallway for Dove. She perks up when she sees what it's holding, sorry. Oh, thank you, Babble. Babble? What does that remind me of? She takes a small bundle of red roses from it, freshly torn from its bush. I follow her to a window and see a thin and tall glass vase with withered roses in it sitting on the sill, sorry. Dove, is it sill or stall? Sill. Dove takes out the dead flowers and replaces them. Then she pauses and looks down at something below. Oh, her face reveals nothing as she tears her gaze away and makes her way down the hall again. Before following her, I stand on my hunches and try to peer out the window. Ooh, is it that entity again? A chill comes down on me when I look down and see a small patch of graves, each marked by small wooden crosses. I break away from the unnerving sight and turn towards the hall where Dove had gone down. She stands at the end of the hall waiting for me. The bird-like ghost's name is Greel, and the doll-like ghost's name is Oddity. Dove introduces them officially when we ran into them as we go around the manor doing mundane tasks. It's a sight I can't get used to. I can't understand how a young girl can act so normal around such monstrous beings. It's almost like she's known them for a long time. Seeing their translucent leathery skin or the fluids that drip from their decaying flesh are enough to send me rolling. But she does not flinch or fear. Earlier, when they had surrounded her in the kitchen, she could tell they were there, waving their arms together to wrap her in a ghostly embrace. And she didn't care in the slightest. I start to think she's more disturbing than the ghosts. To become this corrupted, they would have had to stay trapped in this plane of existence for a long time. Why are they still here? Their horrific forms border on pitiful. To be this far gone. It has to be some type of hell, a purgatory, if you will. As it is a cycle, it has to be a purgatory. Or some form of purgatory. Dove walks among them like they're her family. Though, no, that's not quite it. I reconsider my thoughts. Maybe the image of the graves flashes in my mind. It's because she is theirs. I watch her guide Grill's gangly limbs out of the hallway so they can pass through, like they're nothing but an annoying sibling. A monster, just like them. Maybe this cage she lives in is of her own making. Could be. Dove does the errands like a routine. Putting books away in the library and clean up candles burned to the end of their wicks. By the time she finishes winding up a large grandfather clock in the hallway, the manor feels like a completely different place. The air is less stifled by dust particles. The rooms are brighter, and it feels like a home now. As we walk back to Dove's room, the sun begins its descent into the blazing orange horizon. What do you mean orange? The sky out the window is nothing but red. Jerry May. And the evening cancadas make their shrill voices heard, if only if we could go outside. Despite the manor feeling more livable, there is a feeling it gives me that I cannot shake, a void that looms like a presence. A void that looms like a presence. Then it mustn't be a void then. It's like letters left unfinished, or tea half empty and turning cold. There's a sense of stagnation that places this manor outside of time's reach, and it leaves a noise that buzzes persistently in the air. Dove stops abruptly, and I almost trip over my paws, trying not to run into her. I take a peek from behind her and immediately let out a yelp. Oh, the very first ghost I had met stands at the end of the hallway. Dove doesn't move. I see the ghost stagger down the hall towards us and I instinctively back away. Then Dove speaks. It's okay. I'm not reassured in the slightest. The ghost gets closer and I can see the details of her leaking entrails. Oh gosh, this is quite detailed, isn't it? You've got... Oh, dearie me. I make a whimpering sound and hide behind Dove, keeping myself close to the wall. She's harmless. She doesn't do anything. I throw a quick glance at Dove when her voice flatters. But watch. The ghost is right beside us. Its milky eyes look down at Dove and she holds its unseeing gaze with cold eyes. I don't breathe, but the sour smell of rot overwhelms my heightened sense of smell. The tension between Dove and the ghost creates a pressure that thins the air, making my lungs ache for oxygen. Pain seizes my chest just when I can no longer hold my breath in. The ghost continues down the hall passively. I exhale loudly. I startle when Dove clenches her fist beside me. Her eyes follow the ghost for a couple seconds longer, then she cuts off her stare and moves on. I quickly chase after her, not wanting to be alone with this particularly ghost ever again, if my luck allows it. I look back for a split second and the ghost has disappeared. Dove's shoulders are squared as we return to her room. The scattering of colours is long gone since the sun has set in the opposite direction of her window. We're going to wrap things up for this particular episode. So, there are a few timed multiple choice scenarios here which kind of gives you a bit of environmental choosing here because of the fact that you're kind of pressured in this real life scenario, but of course this is a fantastical scenario full of occultic like Gothic imagery that even these roses kind of give off a very ominous vibe to them. Like rose thorns, which were clearly the theme that cuts the hand in the beginning of the game. That gives you that need to think quickly about the decision before the decision itself has its window expired. So that's why with like the beginning, you could really think about it because you're not put in a pressured spot because of somebody else potentially being there in order to actually quicken your decision for you. So thank you all so much for watching. I really like the environment of this game so far. It's really eerie, and the limited colouring between the black, white and red and everything else in between black and white really gives this really ominous feeling, and it's like whatever detail within the colours is really nice to behold. The different reds, but it seems like there's only one kind of red going on here, which is good. Although different shades of red, I don't know. Thank you all so much for watching, everybody. This has been Dicentra so far. I'm not too sure if I'm pronouncing the name of the game correctly. I highly doubt I am. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and see you all in the next time. Thank you all so much for watching, and take care of yourselves.